Welcome, everyone. Today's topic is hottest and most profitable rental markets. Okay, so let's dive into it. I want to show you an article that I came across today that is very, very interesting with some current stats that I would like to share with you so you have a better understanding of what's happening in the economy and how that affects the rental market. Okay, so as you can imagine, home prices have gone through the roof since the pandemic started through 2021. Today, seller's market. So now what's happening, right? So that's happening to the real estate. The prices are going through the roof. But look at this, personal savings rate. So people are not saving as they used to when the pandemic hit. So this tells you they're spending their stimulus checks, obviously to pay bills. They're not stashing cash for investment. So they're spending what they have. And obviously the savings rate is down. Let me show you these stats. The next one, consumer spending by income. So the red line shows you lower income households, and the blue one is the higher income households. So as you can see here, we have the time frame right when the pandemic started last year, when the first stimulus took place and when the second one took place. So as you can see, people were, when the pandemic hit, people freaked out, right? Because there were a lot of layoffs. People didn't know what was going to happen to the economy. So they were not spending. But as time is going by, they're starting to spend money. And in fact, this was the objective of the stimulus, right? To inject money into the economy, because that's what's going to make the economy recover quicker, because they don't want people to not spend money, because spending money is what moves the economy. Okay, so supply. Obviously, while real estate inventory continues to drop at a rapid pace, home buyer demand remains very high. Okay, so why is that? Inventory historically low numbers, active listings. Check this out. From an average of 1,400 thousand or 1.4 million listings overall in the United States back in 2020, when the pandemic hit, that just plummeted big time. And then the sales for new homes has also increased because of the demand, right? So the demand is super high, and the reason why is because interest rates are still low. They're on the rise, but they're still very low. The issue obviously is the supply, and supply and demand, and this is the reason why property prices are still holding up. Okay, even though we've had historically high unemployment rates in the 20-25%. Property prices are still hold high because of the shortage of inventory. Now let's look at interest rates. Okay, interest rates were historically low in January, February, but rates are going up on the rise. In fact, we did a couple of refinances early this year, January, February. We were able to lock in 3.25% interest rate, but now we're doing a couple of more refinances, in fact, this week, and then the rate has gone up by a point. So from 3.25% now, on residential, you won't get anything below 4. So it's like 4.25%, 4.5. So in a matter of months, between February and end of March, rates went up about a point. Okay, so now based on that, when we're refinancing, we're going the commercial route. Commercial rates are in the mid fives, low fives. Okay, so it's just it makes more sense to do commercial at this point. Okay. Okay, so as we start to recover from the pandemic, a few key indicators reveal which markets were affected the most. Okay, so I'm going to show you a list of the markets that were affected the most nationwide and also in the Chicagoland area. Okay, because those are the markets obviously that you need to be very cautious of. Okay, so what's happening? Interest rates are on the rise. They won't go super high, okay? They're gonna go maybe slightly higher during the summer, but still, it's great time to do refinances if you're gonna tap into equities, or if you are going to turn some rehab loans into long-term rental loans. It's perfect timing for refinances. Okay. Now, trouble mortgages. Okay, I'm gonna show you why this is something that you do need to pay attention, especially the ones that are over 90 days delinquent. Okay, there are some that are 30-day delinquent. Um, it's not that big of a deal because they might still be able to concur with the loan. But the ones that are over 90 days delinquent, guess what? Pretty soon, from what I've heard, September is going to be the month where things are going to reopen at the court. Okay, so what that means is that all the pending pre-foreclosures are going to start entering the court system. We may not see distressed properties or banked on properties anytime soon this year, but they're going to hit the market sometime in the spring or summer next year. Okay, so that's what some of the key players in the industry are mentioning. They're getting ready for things to reopen back up in September, and that includes the eviction moratoriums. Okay, so tenants that have not been able to pay rent, obviously affecting landlords not being able to pay mortgage, um, are going to be dismissed from the premises towards November, okay, when things reopen. Obviously, it's not going to be overnight, especially now, Cook County. There's a huge backlog, okay, of evictions, and now they have a new landlord ordinance law that just got passed in June that is highly protecting tenants. Okay, so that's something to be aware of if you have rentals in Cook County. Okay, so now let's look at the graph for delinquencies. Okay, so when the pandemic hit, I'm talking about the black line shows 90 plus days delinquent versus the 30-day delinquent. So that's the blue one. As you can see, both of them were on the rise. After the pandemic hit, boom, okay, just people lost their jobs and they were unable to pay the mortgage, okay, or obviously the rent for the tenants. So that's gonna put a big dent in the economy, in the real estate market, but due to the shortage of inventory, eventually all these properties that are delinquent are going to come back in the market, which will cause property prices to adjust. So by talking to some of the key players in the industry in the last 2 weeks, they're speculating that property prices will adjust about 10 to 15% down. Okay, so if a property right now appraised for 200,000, by next summer it may appraise for 180, 185. So the property prices are going to decrease, but not by much. And again, this is due to the high pool of buyers today. Okay. And the shortage of inventory. It's just supply and demand, supply being so short and the demand being so high. So at this point, this is the perfect time to stash cash, okay? Because cash is going to be key. Taking care of your FICO score, 680 and above, okay? So that you don't have any problems refinancing, because when all these delinquent properties recycle back into the market sometime next year, you have to be ready, okay? There's gonna be like a tsunami wave. Just look at the numbers, right? So right here, we're looking at 500,000. They went all the way up to 2.5 million, okay? Um, so that's a huge increase, okay? 500% increase, okay? So you can imagine that's going to be the tsunami wave coming down the pipe for properties recycling back into the market. And of course, they're going to come in the as foreclosures, bank-owned properties that will eventually hit the market. MLS or the banks will dispose of those properties via online auctions, judicial auctions, so in-person auctions. So you've got to be ready, okay, when this happens. Consumer spending, as shown in the graphs above, has been high. Okay, so people are not able to save, and this is due to lack of employment. And something that is important for you to understand is that people that are spending their savings are going to have a hard time meeting the reserve requirements. If they want to do buy and holds, if they want to do flips, the reserves requirements are going to be somewhere between 3 to 6 times what the principal, interest, and operating expenses are for a given property that you're pursuing. So you do need to have at least 15, 20, 25,000 in liquid assets as reserves, okay? So super important for you to start building those reserves. So next year, you're ready, right, to do transactions. We don't want that to be a bottleneck or a roadblock for you. Unemployment, I'm gonna show you some graphs of unemployment. As you can see, March hit extremely hard. So going from a 4% all the way to, in fact, the highest that it hit was somewhere in the 25% unemployment. So I believe this graph is very conservative because it was the highest in the history of the United States. So right now, unemployment has stabilized, okay? So people are able to get back on their feet. They're able to either work remotely, but over 50% of the positions that were lost will never be reopened, okay? So it's still, this is a big deal, and especially for blue collar employees, okay? So they were hit the hardest. White collar employees got to work from home remotely, okay? So they're still able to make the payments, they're still able to continue as they were before, okay? But blue collar were hit the hardest, okay? So that's gonna tie into the markets that we're gonna review next, okay? So the top expanding rental markets. So these are the markets that are nationwide, but we're gonna focus on the ones in Chicago, right? Something that applies to you. I just wanted to show you, where the top rental markets are today. So Vegas, New Orleans, Memphis, Philadelphia, Nashville, and here we have a list of all of them nationwide, okay? So as you can see, a lot of people are looking into Florida, right? And that's one of the booming markets, especially for rentals. A lot of people are migrating. Their property taxes are lower, no state tax when it comes to income tax. Jacksonville. So there are many cities in Florida that are popping as great markets to tap into. So you see Jacksonville, Tampa, Miami, Houston, Colorado, Virginia, and many more. Okay, so Chicago comes towards the bottom of the list, 29th. So it ranks 29th. So we're way down. Okay. Um, so now let's dive into what a great and top rental markets are. Okay, so I want to make sure that you have a really good understanding. Um, okay, Valerie has a question. What was the percentage on necessary reserves? So they're looking between 3 to 6 months of principal, interest, tax and insurance, and operating expenses. So you're looking at about 2 to 3,000 per month times 3 at least. So that'll be 6,000. I mean, close to 9,000, between 9 to 20,000 in reserves. Okay, that you do need to have if you're going to tap into the rental markets. Now, what's a great rental market? Okay, so a great rental market is where property prices are still very reasonable, but the rents are through the roof. Okay, so that's what makes a great rental market. Now, how do you know where to find them? So what we've done is we analyzed over 300 areas in Chicago. So we identified the top rental markets. So I'm going to show them. So the way that we filter these, we like to do these by area type. Okay. So now my advice, if you're going to be focusing on rentals, is to focus on B minus, B plus, A minus neighborhoods, and perhaps C plus. Okay, just be very cautious when you get into C areas. Try to stick to C plus, B minus, and better. Okay, why? Because again, the graphs that I show you, unemployment hit C and D areas the hardest. Okay, so you won't have collectible tenants. You won't be able to command top dollars for your flips, right? So make sure that you're very cautious as to where you invest. So let's go into area reports and let me just show you the way we do it. So I want to focus on A and B markets and perhaps C plus markets, okay? Now, what drives, we use a score, it's called the livability score, okay? That's what tells us if it's a B market, a C market. So let me just give an example. Give me, the approach is gonna be cash flow. Give me the top rental markets within the B neighborhoods, okay? So B neighborhoods, these are all the B neighborhoods. Let me show you the livability score. This is super critical because this is a summary of employment, crime, schools, household income, vacancy rates, rental rates. It is a composite index for you to focus on a given area that is, I would say, secure to do real estate investment when it comes to rentals. So anything, the rule of thumb is any area over 70 livability score is great, okay? So as you can see, Old SIP is 73, Berkeley 72, Bridgeview 72. So anything over 70%, thumbs up. There are some areas that are like 55, 60, so there are more challenging areas, okay? You just need to be aware of it. So this is what I really like about the score, that it summarizes the area type for us in seconds, okay? Now, the next thing that we like to look at within the B markets that are cash flow markets. Why cash flow? Because rents are high. That's simple. And some of them are still very, very affordable. So the rule of thumb is that we like to buy properties somewhere in between 130 to 160, 170. Okay, that's the sweet spot to maximize your returns and minimize your risk. 130 to 170. So now the question is, will you be able to buy a single family home in top rental markets? Of course you will. So let me just give an example right here. So we have sweet spot to buy right here, this column that says sweet spot to buy DE stands for detached, meaning single family home. So as you can see, 149, 157 in Berkeley, 186 in Bridgeview. So the sweet spot to buy a single family home is within the sweet spot that I mentioned earlier, okay? And then we're gonna move over to the last column, median rental income for a 3-bedroom. So check this out. Allsip is one of the top rental markets. Why? Because property prices are still very affordable in the 150, I would say, sweet spot to buy. And look at the rents. The rents are extremely high, 1,800 for a 3-bedroom. Now, if we look at Berkeley, sweet spot to buy is a single family home is 157, rents over $2,000. Okay, so what we like to do is use the 1% rule of thumb. If you buy a property, let's say for 100, and then you put in 50, so all in is 150. You've got to be able to rent that property for at least 1% of all-in expenses. So 1% of 150,000 is 1,500. So if you're able to rent the property for at least 1%, the property is going to make sense as a rental. Okay. In this case, check this out: 157 sweet spot, but you're going to be collecting way over 1% of the all-in cost or investment. So Berkeley makes it to the top list as one of the top 5 rental markets. Okay. Now let me show you another one, Brookfield. So Brookfield, look at this. The problem with Brookfield, it's a great market. It's 79 livability score. So Brookfield is a B plus market. However, look at the sweet spot to buy a single family home, $234,000. So it's obviously more expensive, and the rents, look, 1,500, right? So even though Brookfield is a great neighborhood, guess what? It's not as affordable as other markets, and the rents are not as high as other markets. So you can still cash flow if you find a great deal in Brookfield. But the question is, would you rather focus on Brookfield or, for instance, Allsip, right? I would say Allsip all day long because it's more affordable and rents are higher. That's what makes a great rental market. Okay, so you've got to always maximize your return and minimize your risk. How do you do that? Investing in the right market. So if you're going to do rentals, you've got to look at these markets. Okay, the markets that we qualified as top rental markets, and obviously you need to dive deeper to find out what the sweet spot to buy a single family home in that market is. So for instance, Oak Forest, okay, livability score, it's 78. Sweet spot to buy a single family home is 170. I like that. Now let's go all the way to the rents, 1350. Okay, it's too low, too low. And in fact, we were looking at one property. It was a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. The owner wanted 115,000, but it was a gut rehab. The ARV on that property was about 230 or so, 215. So there was not enough meat in the bone because the rehab was going to be about 80,000 at least, 80 to 100,000. So there was not enough meat in the bone. But think about this: if you buy it for 115 and put in maybe 80, all in 200,000. Remember the rule of the 1%. So all in, you're at close to 200,000, and yet you're going to be able to rent that property for only 1350. Guess what? It's not going to cash flow. Okay, it's not going to cash flow. So that's something that you do need to be aware of on every single market. You've got to check what the rental market determines for a 3-bedroom, a 2-bedroom. Now, the way to find out the rents for a property, we like to use Zillow for the rents at the property level. It is very, very accurate. Okay, so we love Zillow for um, identifying what the rent is going to be for a given property. Okay, so are there any questions so far?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Hugo. This is Valerie. You said you use Zillow to determine the rents. Is that just for single family, or would that also apply to multifamily?
Just single family condos, no multi-unit.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Thank
it's
you.
very accurate. Great question, Valerie. Um, so I know Brian, for instance, what's your take on because I know you're doing rentals, you're doing a flip, Brian, on for instance Elgin. What's your take on it? Why did you buy a rental in Elgin? Tell us more about your thinking because I know you know the market, you know the numbers. So tell us more about your opinion. And in fact, I'm gonna pull up Elgin.
Yeah, Elgin is, for me, I think it's a good rental market. It has a lot of rental units in the area, um, and depends as far as pockets. There's different pockets where you can get more for your money. You can rent more, for the rooms. So, like for a typical 2-bedroom, uh, not really updated well, you can get at least 1,200 to 1,400 for a 2-bedroom. For 3 bedrooms, easily 1,500. If it's really nice, even 1,700. So between 15 to 17 for 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 1,200 to 1,400.
Absolutely. And then,
And Elgin,
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
Elgin has 3 zip codes. Elgin has 3 zip codes. Zip code like the 60124. They have the highest rental. Like they're like the top. They're more on like the A minus B plus area, so you can get more on that. But property values in 60124 is higher compared to 60120 and 60123. So, you know, um, I kind of I kind of know the area very well because I lived in Elgin for 10 years. So, and I still work there, and I drive around the downtown Elgin all the time. So,
Very good. So pretty much, would you say that east of the river would be like the 60120 zip code that has a lower property value compared to the west side of the river?
correct. The 60120 is the east, and that's lower values. Homes are a little cheaper, and then the 60123, somewhat in the middle, kind of like in the middle grade, and then 60124 is like that top, like the highest one.
Highest. And then your rental is on the west side of Elgin, right? Um, the one on
Correct.
Burr?
It's in Yes, it's the middle grade.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one of the things, as Brian said, is it's a great rental market because it's also not only a great um, cash flow market, but affordability is there, right? So you can buy a 3-bedroom, 2 bath for 170, 180,000 or less. Like you got a great deal on your single family home. How much was that? 140, one or so?
The one in Bird.
Yes.
Yeah, I got lucky on that. So that was 121.
121. Whoa. So let's talk about the 1% rule of thumb, right? So he's at 121 plus your rehab, Brian.
There, Rehab was 20, so I'm all in 141.
141, and the rent
All in
is over
1590,
1600.
1595.
1600. Okay,
Yeah,
so
1600.
perfect. So it's going to cash flow incredibly well. How much do you anticipate the cash flow to be?
400 a month
That's
after
awesome.
PITI.
Yeah, that's awesome. And not only that, but that property should, did it appraise, I believe you mentioned somewhere in the upper 100s, right?
Yeah, I got the appraisal back. It was 196.
Whoa, that's huge. That's huge. So that's a much, Brian. That's a perfect example, home run deal, and how Brian was able to analyze. So as you heard Brian, you've got to understand the market, and as he said, every market has pockets. Okay, so that's in fact one of the tools that I'm going to show you in DealVault. We integrate with Trulia, and it shows you a heat map. To identify pockets, okay, and that's super cool. I'll show you that in just a second. Let me see if there are any other questions. Are there any other questions?
Quick question, Hugo.
Okay.
Valerie here. So how can you find out, or does Chicago Deal Vault give you any indication of where the investors are buying? If I was going to target a great rental market based on the analysis that you just gave us, all that's great, but is that going to drive the investors and where they're going to buy? Especially if I'm a wholesaler, I need to wholesale into the markets where the investors are going to buy for rental or even retail. How do we target that? How do we find out that?
Okay, so there are a couple of ways that we can figure that out. So we have a way. I mean, from the MLS, we can get a count of the sold properties by neighborhood. Okay, so for instance, if you're wholesaling and you want to target, let's say, flippers, okay, so we know how many flips are happening on a given area, okay. So for every single report, let me just pull up Elgin, that I have it up here. We're going to be able to tell you how many flips have happened in the last 12 months in that particular neighborhood. Okay, so you want to target, if you're going to do wholesaling or target properties that are selling fast, you want to target top flipping markets, okay? Because what it means is that properties are selling super fast, okay? And that's where you want to focus. So let me just show you, Elgin. I'm going to scroll down and show you a key metric. Okay, where is this? Okay, so right here, perfect example. So months of housing supply in Elgin, what it tells you is that the time frame that it takes for a property to sell. If it's a condo townhome, it's going to take about less than 2 months to sell. If it's a single family home, it's going to take a little bit over 2 months. Okay, and consequently, I can tell you that look, there are tons of flips for condos. Okay, why? Because property price is below 145. Okay, and this is a great B solid market that supports not only rentals, but also flips because properties don't stay too long in the market. So to answer your question, if you want to focus where investors are buying, you want to focus on flipping markets, okay? Because guess what? Flipping markets means that people are migrating to these areas because of safety, great schools, great infrastructure, great sources of employment. So people want to live there, right? It's a desirable area, but yet there's not enough supply, right? So the question is, will you focus on where people are moving into Of course, you have to. And consequently, flippers are going to be attracted to that market. And if you're thinking about wholesaling, that's a great market to focus, because if you have a great deal in a top flipping market, guess what? You're going to be able to sell it like not tomorrow. Does that make sense? So you should not focus on rental markets if you're going to do wholesaling. Does that make sense? If
That
you
does
want
make
to like
sense. But I
quickly
have a
sell the
question.
property. Yes.
Right now, uh, it might be hard to find enough. It might be hard to get enough discount to find a great deal for a flipper. And I understand that your deal vault, it looks at, even if you're handy as a wholesaler, you just don't want to target flippers, do you? Don't you want to target buy and hold investors as well? Because there's so many people now that that's their exit strategy. They want buy and hold, and maybe it's a light rehab, but they're not going to flip it. They're going to buy it and hold it. So I don't want to miss out marketing as a wholesaler to that whole segment. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and I agree with you because of the current shortage of inventory. So, in fact, let's say if you want to target rental markets, guess what? You can even make a bigger profit wholesaling to people who are gonna buy and hold the property. You know why? Because when you buy and hold, it's the more forgiving offer that they can make as an investor. So they're going to have more time to recoup in the future, so they can afford to pay you more for your deal versus a flipper. Flipper, um, they really have a very narrow margin, so they need to make at least 20% return on their investment. So meaning if they sell the property for 200,000, once it's been rehabbed, they need to make at least 20% of that, which is 40,000. So the flipper really needs to pretty much pay the lowest price. So no, I
I'm
agree with
thinking,
you.
Hugo, numbers like, if I play into a rehabbers market, it's going to be 65 to 70, 75. And if I play into a buy and hold, light rehab or whatever, it's more like 75 to 80, 85.
Right.
Is that right?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I agree with
Okay.
you. So yeah, right now, because of the shortage of inventory, it won't make a difference whether you focus on flipping or rental markets. But assuming things reopen back up in September and things will stabilize more by next year, then wholesaling would make more sense to focus on areas that are super hot, that properties are moving like no tomorrow, and those are going to be top flipping markets because you're going to be able to sell your deal super, super fast.
I understand that, and that makes a lot of sense, and I agree with you 100%. But if my income source is, let's just hypothesize here, 100% my income source is wholesaling, and I need to wholesale between now, this day right now, and when all of these properties, well, all of the systems are going to open up, they're going to flush through the system, and they're actually going to become inventory that's approachable by investors, which might be a year from now. How does somebody who is focusing on wholesaling as an income source make money? They have to think about who their buyer is going to be right now and which markets they should be leaning into. I can't sit around and wait for a year for this other market to open up. I have to do something now. So what are your
Absolutely.
suggestions there?
Absolutely. So right now there are so many distressed owners, um, but right now they're being protected, right, by the moratoriums, by the courts being closed. But very soon they're going to need to take action, right? When they see that the courts open up and they enter the foreclosure process, when they feel the urge to take action, else they're going to lose their home, guess what? wholesalers are going to have a tsunami wave of motivated sellers. Right now, the owners are not taking action because they don't need to. No one is going to touch them. Therefore, even if they are behind, they're delinquent over 90 days, they're just taking it easy because they're getting stimulus money. And not only that, but courts are closed. No one is touching them, right? So even we've tried to do cash for keys, offering them $10,000. They're not moving a finger. They say, well, if I stay in this house for the next 6 months, your $10,000 is not going to cut it. Does that make sense? So, but when things reopen back up and they see that they can legally be dismissed of their homes, boom. So wholesalers, whoa, are going to become gold, and they're going to have so many opportunities. Okay, that
So
is why. Go ahead.
no, so Hugo, let's drill this down. Okay, let's just say September is the demarcation line. It's beginning of
Yes.
September, end of September. That's an important point because that's a whole month. Once you
Yes.
find out that, okay, courts open up. Now, is there going to be a lag time, 2, 3 months, or is it, and for people that are, let's say 90 days behind, when does the real, poo hit the fan, so to speak, so that people, okay, the courts open up beginning or end of September, then there's a 2 or 3 month lag time before people are really coming after them, which puts us into the end of the year or the beginning of the year. Is that
Right.
when things are really starting to move, or is it really another 6 months beyond that?
Okay, so great question. Let's go over the timeline just the way you described. September, things reopen, right? But there's a backlog. So by the time they enter the court system, it might take, let's say, 3, 4 months. So
3,
you're
4
looking
months.
at exactly
Okay.
September, October, November, end of the month. So things will start next year, January, February, to hit the court. So now, once they enter the foreclosure process, guess what? So the bank is gonna wait about, I would say, 6 to 9 months before the judge will issue the auction date. Okay, so towards the fall of next year is when people are going to start to lose their homes.
So the clock is really, really starts running. Is that the beginning or the end of September 2021 when all this is supposed to happen? The first, uh, the first thing is lifted.
Sometime in September, sometime in
Okay, let's say
September.
mid-September then. Okay,
Yeah,
so nothing really
mid-September.
happens because of the backlog. It lifts mid-September, backlog. We turn over into 2022. The clock is running, okay? And
Yes,
but really at that point, people are not really going to start sweating bullets until mid-year. So, and their
exactly.
drop-down date is going to be end of summer. So heavy marketing for foreclosures really begins, let's say, January, February of next year.
I agree with you 100% because guess what? You need to do heavy marketing and consistently for at least 6 to 8 months, once a month. Okay, so
Okay.
you need to start hitting them starting February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. Exactly. February, that's when we need to start hitting them via postcards. We need to have awareness in their eyes. Okay,
This
that
is great.
listen,
This
we're
is
here to
great that
help you.
this is great that you're drilling this down because it doesn't make sense. I mean, it makes sense to market to pre-foreclosures, but not now. So I'm going back to my original question. Now I know the timeline for when it's really going to happen, which is it's 6 to 7 months away from right now. So right now, wholesalers who are playing into the market, they need another strategy. And
Right.
the strategy is not to market to these people and waste our money marketing to people that, you know what, they're sitting back watching TV, eating pizza, getting their stimulus check, and not worrying about anything. They're going to start
Exactly.
sweating. They're going to sweat bullets a year from now. That's what I want to be in front of their face. But up until then, I need another strategy, and I want to be able to play into where people are going to be buying rentals and doing rentals, because not just everybody is a fix and flipper out there. I know that there are so many people, and that's why you're having this webinar, that are focused on building a rental portfolio. Rentals are what's the buzz right now. So maybe you can elaborate on it. Maybe I shouldn't be taking any more time in this webinar, but I'm trying to include all of this into the bigger concept of rental investors, and how I can bring product to them right now, because everybody's looking for products. So they might want a wholesaler to bring them product, and strategies for that, in addition to understanding what you're talking about in the rental markets in general. So that's why I brought that up.
No, that's a great point. And let me tell you, let's make a plan. You're gonna hit them really hard starting February with mailers once a week. Now the question is, which markets are you gonna focus?
I can't afford that, Hugo. I cannot hit them once a week. Sorry.
I mean, once a month. Yeah.
There we go. There we go.
Once a month, not once a week. Sorry. So the question is, let me ask you this. This is a quiz question for everyone. Which market would you focus on based on what I told you earlier? Remember, as a tip of advice, the markets that were hit the hardest are the distress or challenging D, C, perhaps some B minus. So which ones would you target? The most distressed, that were hit the hardest, or the B plus A minus? Which ones would you go for as a wholesaler?
Should I answer it, or should I wait for somebody else to
No,
answer it?
go, anybody, go for it.
Well, since I'm on the line, I'm going to answer it, and I hope I don't offend anybody, but I'm going for B, straight up B markets, B minus, because
Perfect.
that's where the most distress are, and B plus not so much. C, I'm staying out of C because I don't want to go there unless I have to, and it would only be C plus max. So let's say B,
Perfect.
B minus.
I agree with you. C plus, B minus, B plus. That'll be the ideal market where you focus on. Whether it's a rental market or a flipping market, I don't think it's going to make a difference, because right now there's such a shortage of inventory that you can target any market. But yeah, that's the answer. That's the blueprint for the upcoming months. And so
Okay.
now what people need to do on the other side. So this is, you're thinking as a wholesaler, but what about the people who are going to do rentals and flips? What do they need to do today? What markets do they need to focus on? So the advice is that, again, stashing up cash. That's going to be so critical, because I'm seeing it today. I've got to show you this. I'm going to show it. So I'm going to turn the camera. Beautiful. Do your show. Beautiful. Everyone, Frida was dancing in front of me, trying to make me laugh.
Well, it worked. That's good.
That worked. That worked. Uh, so if you're gonna do buy and hold and flips, you've gotta have reserves. You have to have FICO over 680, and you have to have the knowledge. Okay, because when things reopen up, wholesalers are going to be there to source deals for you. So you've got to be able to pull the trigger. And not only that, but you're going to need to have the right team in place. That's going to be so critical, okay? Because I cannot stress this enough, that real estate is a people's business, is who you know. So you've got to work with the right attorney, inspector, lender, partner, contractors, especially, right? Because they can either break you or make you. So it's going to be super critical. So that's going to be the advice for people who want to do flips and rentals. And if you're thinking about flips, they have to be in and out, micro flips, rehab less than 50,000, nothing over 50, 60,000 or go rehabs, unless you have a construction background and a lot of experience. Otherwise, it's not worth it. It's too much work. You are taking up too much energy, and the risk goes through the sky. Like, for instance, Brian can speak to that. Right, Brian, on your Wheaton property that you were doing big rehab on, especially foundation work.
Yes, that's true.
So what would you tell the audience, Brian, based on your experience, um, if they want to do rentals or flips? What is it that they need to focus on?
Exactly what you said. Try not to get into high risk, big rehabs. Keep it to minimum. Like right now, man, we went to Home Depot, bought some materials. Lumber are ridiculous. Subfloors that we bought some subfloors. They're like $58 each. While as two months ago, a month and a half ago, they were only $30. 2x4s are the same. They were like $4. Now they're like $8. I mean, materials are ridiculous. Nails, I mean everything. And some materials are not available. You know, like we needed longer wood or boards. They're not available. It's special order, and it takes weeks to get them. I mean, it's insane. So this project that we're working on now, it's been going on for a while. So we're kind of stuck with this. So we're just gonna power through this and be done after this. We're done with gut rehabs. we're just we're we're just gonna stick with you know uh cosmetic superficial rehabs, no more gut rehabs, just because I mean it's true. uh Materials costs are expensive now, but at the same time you can sell property at a higher price as well, so it almost balances it out. But at the same time, if you don't have enough reserves or funds to support the project, it's really tough.
But
Exactly.
Brian, you didn't budget in these higher costs initially, so isn't that going to be a loss, or you're just hoping for higher sales prices on the end?
Good question, Valerie. Correct. I'm just hoping that the market will save us. Otherwise, my budget is really, it's not even close. I think we're actually going to be double our budget. So
Is this price increase, is this just due to the pandemic and supply and demand and shortages, and things are going to improve? Do they have projections for that three months from now, 6 months from now, or nobody's saying anything?
you're right. Prices gone up because of pandemic and also, yeah, limited supplies. You know, import materials coming from Canada or other places are shut down. So materials are really short. There's so much shortage, and that, drives the prices up. And hopefully it's temporary until the whole economy is stabilized. But yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
But are there any projections for this to happen in 3 months, 6 months, so that you guys can normalize your rehab budgets and your overall construction costs?
I think it's gonna be like this for a while,
Okay.
especially now. Yeah, I think it'll probably start coming down as the season, like towards the end of the year. It might start coming down when everyone's kind of slowing down with constructions. When we hit winter months, usually when construction slows down and not much going on. But right now, I think it's peaking right now. So, but we just gotta get through it. So,
Well, good luck, and I'm sure
thank you.
everything will stabilize at some point. It's just weird right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, not only that, but the cost of labor as well, right, Brian? I mean, it's gone way higher than a couple of years ago. So,
I think right now I'm lucky with the guys I'm working with because so far they haven't raised their prices. But I've got a really good contractor right now that I'm working with, so I'm lucky with that. Uh, so, but anywhere else, you're right. Labor costs also gone up.
right. Are there any other questions on the line? Hey, Angel, how are you?
I,
Would you like to make any comments or?
you talking to me, Hugo?
Oh, Angel. I was
Oh,
talking
Angel.
to
Okay.
Angel. So who is this? Is this Julian?
This was Kenneth Akins.
Oh, okay. Well, wait, if you have anything to comment, yeah, go for it.
Okay. Yeah, I did have I was wondering about, I noticed that with the rental market, it's very low supply as far as rentals. Um,
Yes.
and the owners, they're not letting up on their criteria either. So I've been having a hard time finding rentals for my clients that are looking for rentals. And I know that it's because of the pandemic and because of what's going on, with the coronavirus. But man, when I tell you, I've been listening to what you've been talking about, and you're really on point. You're right, and I've also other realtors have been saying the same thing. So, my question is, do you think that the rental market is going to um, pick up this summer? And also, do you think that the downtown rental market, um, do you think that it was affected? Like, how bad do you think that downtown market was affected too?
Yeah, definitely. Like for instance, we have a unit, a three flat in Wheaton. It just got the tenant moved out, and I was talking to Catholic Charities, and they told me, Hugh, I mean, this it is so hard to find a rental right now. So you're gonna be able to rent these like not tomorrow for quite a lot, like a three-bedroom, 1.5 bath. It's going to go
Hmm.
for like 1,800. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And the problem is that there's such a shortage of inventory, especially in the suburbs, because a lot of people migrated from the city to the suburbs. Um, and that is affecting obviously the rental market in the city. But it's benefiting the rental market in the suburbs. Like we did a two flat in Lansing. We had 170 showings. We rented the properties like in less than a week above asking price. I mean, and it was just crazy, insane.
Wow. Yeah, that is
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, it is crazy. So we have a property for selling Des Plaines at 260. We have an offer for close to 300, like 296 or something. So it's just insane. Rental market is super strong. Um, so it's just crazy. So in fact, I think we put a condo for rent this morning. We got an application already.
Oh,
And by the
wow.
way, yeah, I'm gonna show you guys the pictures because Angel did it. He's on the line. So let me share my screen. It's a condo in Lakeview. How do I go to the next page? Okay, so this is the shower. This was a complete rehab. Uh, so let me show you. How do I get to the next pictures? Oh, here they are. So here. So
So
it's a
where is
couple.
that in Lakeview? Is that
Oh,
Sheridan
that's
Road?
on. Yeah, it's on 30. It's on Pine Grove. So
Pine
it's
Grove.
on Pine Grove between Irving Park and Pine Grove, right there. So it's a block west of Lakeshore. So it's a two-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom. Appliances should be coming this week. So new kitchen, new flooring, paint. So Angel did a great job. That's the bathroom. He did the shower. There used to be a bathtub. Now it's a shower. And I think I was just
Nice.
checking. We just got an application like not too long ago. So the rental market, yeah, this guy just applied. You see, for this is the address, 3825 North Pine Grove. So yeah, no, the rental market it's just amazing. But to answer your question, yeah, the suburbs has grown tremendously in super strong rental market versus the city. People are not so crazy about the city because of the riots downtown. just safety. You still go downtown, and there's still some places that are boarded up, some stores. Um, so yeah, no, people had enough. And then
That makes a
downtown,
lot of sense.
yeah, people pay a lot of money in assessments downtown. So yeah, a lot of properties for sale downtown, condos especially.
That makes so much sense. I was actually showing one of my clients. I sent him a bunch of rental listings. He wanted to
Yeah,
move to the South Loop, and when he started seeing the prices, he was amazed. He was excited because the prices were dropped, and there were so many. There's so many you know rentals available downtown. So
right.
you absolutely right. And then the other thing about downtown is just like you were saying, there's more people, so there's more chance to basically contract something like coronavirus because you're around so many more people. So that detracts
Exactly.
people away from there too. You're right, absolutely, Hugo.
Yeah, no,
I have
it's an
I have an
interesting
opinion
field.
about the rental market in the downtown versus suburbs. I lived in the
Okay.
downtown for 30 plus years and recently moved to the suburbs, north suburbs. But I think the whole situation that we're in the middle of right now is temporary, and that once the vaccinations are reaching herd mentality, people feel safer, they're going to go back to work. People will change their work habits a little bit, but I still think there's a huge amount of people that want to go back to the city and they want to work. I feel that the rental market is probably going to come back in the city and that there are some super hot cake deals there right now if you get them as a renter because and
Absolutely.
lock them in now because I think the prices are going to go back up. It's just we're on the front end of them going back up. So there are super duper
Yes,
deals out
yeah,
there.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, Valerie. Um, Although it may not go back as the way it used to be, because many companies realize that they're going to save a lot of money by having people work remotely, and maybe many companies are not renewing leases in downtown locations because it's more cost effective, and they're still getting the productivity from their employees. So a good percentage will go back to the office because you still need the face-to-face interaction, but maybe not 100% of all of them. So they might downsize on their office space. But yeah, eventually, I agree with you, Valerie. Things will rebound, but I think it's going to be slowly.
I also agree with you. I think that there's going to be a huge not huge, but there is going to be a component of remote workers now. But there are still companies that want the identification and they want the brand that they have an office in downtown Chicago on such and such a street in such and such a neighborhood. So there's
Yeah,
always
true.
going to be that. There's always going to be that in addition to them trying to save money by having remote workers. It's just going to be more of a blend, I think.
I agree. I agree with you guys. So, no, I think it's been an amazing meeting with chatting with all of you. Thank you for your input contribution, everyone. Valerie, Brian, Ken. I mean, that makes the entire meeting amazing. And your questions, of course, that's awesome.
Thank you, Hugo. Thank you.
No, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Angel, for the great work that you did on the condo. And I can send you, Brian, Angel. So, Angel, if you can put in your phone number, or Brian, I can send you. By the way, Brian, I don't have yeah, I can. Is that okay, Angel? Okay, so Brian, I can send you Angel's phone number. And Brian, I don't have a survey person. I'm gonna check with an attorney so that I can give you a reference. Okay, I didn't forget about it.
That's okay. I actually got one. I've already
Oh, you
ordered
got
one.
one? Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
you could
You-
probably add it to our list as well.
Okay, that if you have a great resource, yeah, I'll be happy to because we don't have one.
Okay. Yeah, I'll share you that info. A really nice guy.
Perfect.
They're coming out. He said he'll deliver it by the 20th. So
Awesome. Awesome.
yeah.
Perfect, Brian. Great. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for your contributions, and I enjoy meeting with all of you today. So I look forward to seeing you on our next meeting. And so please reserve your spot at the conference. We have a one-day event end of the month, 100 spots, live meeting, Oak Brook. So it's going to be super cool. Make sure that you get your spot. And I look forward to seeing you guys at the next event.